Good morning. It is Friday, the 13th, November 13th to be specific. A little later today, the sun's pouring in. My body needed more sleep last night. I was up late watching this show on Netflix called Maniac. It's like a psychological thriller kind of piece. I love those. It's like someone colorfully filmed the inside of someone's brain. I love that. I love tapping into the harder questions that people are asking of themselves. I like those kind of films and shows usually a lot better than a rom-com, the surface level kind of stuff. Usually. Depends what kind of mood I'm in, but if I'm gonna watch a film, I want to be able to really see myself in it and have it make me reflect. My experience of myself today. Sorry, there's a cardinal right outside my window, sitting in this tree that's lost most of its leaves. You can hear it singing. It's a female. It's very dull in its red color, almost brown. Only its tail and its head feathers are a little red. It's beautiful. Over the last year or so, I've really come to appreciate birds and the messages that they have to teach us. You know, they're born up high in a nest, most of them. And in order for them to survive, they have to learn how to fly. You know, they've got their wet feathers and they practice flitting up and down out of the nest, and eventually they just gotta jump out and trust. Trust their instincts, trust their body. And that they can do it. That nature's on their side. How often does that feel true for me in my life? When I see the other people I admire and look up to around me flying in some way. And just to jump and trust that I can do the same. I'd say that I'm very good at doing that for the most part, but I don't like saying but, because I feel like it negates the thing that you said before it. It's like it wasn't important, or this is contradictory to previous statements. So I'm going to be more precise with that. And there are opportunities, I think, for me to look at areas where I am just stuck flitting over the nest, practicing still ad nauseum without letting myself fly. So I was getting into talking about my experience of myself, and I think this ties in actually beautifully, to me anyway. There's a lot of instances, more than I can count, that I remember listening to two of my primary caretakers in my life talk about themselves in a way that was, how do I describe it? How did I experience them? My experience of them was that they were regretful and remorseful of their actions. They vocalized that they wanted to go back and do it all over. And yet here they are in this moment that they've been given. And they still feel stuck, like they can't. Even though it's a new moment right now, they still very much feel trapped, and they seem to me very trapped in the past and keep continuing at the same behavior. All while wishing it could be different. Resisting this moment. Which is an interesting way to be, isn't it? Nothing wrong with it. It strikes me, though, as creating a lot of suffering. And the suffering itself has a purpose. Perhaps it compounds so much one day that or perhaps it lives steadily in their hearts enough that it allows them to have compassion for other people who suffer. My experience of them is that they seem blocked from moving past that, past their past. And the reason I experience that is because I experience that in myself from time to time. I feel like last night and yesterday, particularly yesterday evening in particular, was a time I felt like that. Where I was making steady progress, doing all the right things, checking all the boxes with regards to working on my business and eating and talking to myself in a loving way. And then after a long day of work at my day job, after a 3-day staycation that I took to help me reevaluate my role and how I want to move forward, which is really important, and I'm really glad that I did that. I have a lot of clarity about how I want to move forward, so I have more time and resources to work on my business versus my day job. It's a very brave and powerful step. Next one is actually asking for that raise and that role redefinition, which I'm gonna do next week. At any rate, toward the end of the day, I started to feel that feeling of like I couldn't get beyond my past. Feeling stuck, like I was never gonna be able to be successful in the ways that I want. I wasn't gonna find a partner. I wasn't gonna be out of debt, have an abundance of wealth. I wasn't going to be the advocate for my health the way that I try to be. And no one's ever gonna be perfect all the time. It's not the fucking point. And I felt particularly hard on myself, and the way I soothed myself was I went to Target, which was already decorated like a winter wonderland. I marched down the Christmas candy aisle and I stocked up on some coma-inducing sugar, which I've done in the past. I used to do it quite a bit. And what I mean is just like comfort eating. Some call it binge eating, to the point of just discomfort. And I sat down and watched my psychological thriller and ate this stuff. These are my confessions. It's hard to talk about, particularly as someone who's in the health field, that this is something that I've struggled with in the past. And I know it's vitally important because I know it's something that tons of people struggle with. And I bring it up, and I bring it up in the context of this experience I'm having of myself, because I really I'm curious about understanding why. Why I have such high expectations for myself, and why I'm so tough on myself, and why do I go to food? Can brainstorm. One, it's from a learning standpoint, it's something that I've watched my caretakers do. Pudding pack after pudding pack in front of the TV, and in the evenings particularly, which tends to be when this happens for me. And always while watching something. It's like being left alone, with just the act of eating itself would make it too apparent. It wouldn't make it as enjoyable. It's like there's so much shame around it, I don't want to watch it. Or I love myself so much that if I didn't have the TV on, I wouldn't actually allow myself to eat that. Another perspective. So it's learned behavior. There's a chemical aspect to it, of course. Sugar. And the feeling, because that's typically what I go to, is the sweets. Occasionally the savory. Usually the savory just to help me enjoy the sweets more, because if I just have sweet, it'll take me straight to a headache. I had a friend describe once that I just felt like I needed sweetness in my life. My life was missing sweetness. And that gets into the emotional aspect, but back to the chemical, like the crazy dopamine rush and reward centers that arise, feeling good when back to feeling inside my body. I feel like I'm not enjoying my experience of myself, or I feel like I'm not moving fast enough, or not enough. Maybe metaphorically, I want to make myself bigger. If you eat that way often enough, you will get bigger. It's from feeling small. Maybe there's a self-destructive aspect of it. I know more than many how toxic that kind of food is to your body. So it feels like self-destruction. Maybe it's a numbing agent. So it's too challenging to feel whatever I'm feeling right then at that moment. And so by completely checking out and zoning out, I don't feel that, which, you know, in my experience, sitting with those experiences can be very challenging and very rewarding on the other side. And in the midst, what you learn about yourself, being actually being able to be there with yourself. And certainly the after effects aren't worth it. I'm congested today as a result. I needed to sleep for a long time. Feel a little foggy and tired. Some days when I've done this, I feel like my stomach is just retching. Like I can't even be upside down. I might get nauseous. Try to do yoga in the morning and feel dizzy when I go upside down into downward dog. It certainly isn't in alignment with my values to eat that way. And it's been carried with me so long, at least since college, is when I remember first eating this way. Maybe even earlier. It's a survival mechanism. And what's in alignment for me is to have compassion for that right now. So now I was just trying to survive and to not feel pain. It's hard to remember in those moments the value that you can have by experiencing pain, the lessons and the growth and the wisdom. What I feel right now is regret for having missed out on a moment of being conscious. I feel like it's just when I do that, I check out of reality. I'm not conscious, and that's very ordinary human part of our existence right now in society. A lot of us go most of our lives walking around being unconscious. Come to think of it, our awareness is already so small. Like our subconscious is like, I've heard a friend describe it's like the ocean, like unconscious and subconscious like the ocean, and our actual awareness is like a vanilla wafer floating on that ocean. So it's already small anyway. So why let it get any smaller? Why turn it into a crumb? There's a lesson in there for me. the lesson almost always comes down to, for me anyway, is how can I love myself through this? Not necessarily how can I fix this, which a lot of this conversation has, in retrospect, looking back at it, this conversation with myself sounded like, what can I do to figure this out so I don't do it anymore? But can I love myself, and can I love myself through this experience? Knowing it may happen again. Little Rachel inside of me is just trying to feel safe. Trying to feel enough. And what I don't want to do again is try to fix or punish myself, which I've definitely done in the past. Just more so want to understand where it's coming from. So it's not just something I continue to do automatically. Even though it's not all that frequent these days that I eat that way. It used to be like, there were periods in my life that were really hard, where it was like 3 or 4 times a week. Now I'd say it's maybe once a month. I think that's all for today. It's gotten long. Thank you for listening, if you're here. If this is something that you have experienced in your life, maybe you saw something about yourself that you maybe haven't seen before. All right, there are a lot of people that live in my building, and they're being quite loud right now. Find myself being angry about it. Doing a video, very serious business, don't they know? Anywho, I'm out of here. Another day. I love you. Bye.